Okay, let's set a scene. Just imagine a day where everything just stops, the air itself feels like it's holding its breath, and every single voice is hushed. Not, out of fear exactly, but this deep, absolute silence. It really underscores this moment of ultimate accountability.
Yeah, moment of reckoning.
Exactly. Nothing moves, nobody speaks until God gives permission. It's pretty awe-inspiring, maybe a little terrifying too, right?
It is. And that chilling silence, that's really our starting point today.
It really is. It immediately sets up this unparalleled level of divine authority, doesn't it? It's the foundation for everything else. And that image, that feeling, it's central to what we're exploring. Today we're doing a deep dive into verses 105 through 110 of Surah Hud from the Quran.
Right.
And we're looking at them through the incredibly insightful lens of Sheikh Muhammad Metwali Al-Sha'rawy's interpretation.
Yes, his tafsir.
Our mission really is to unpack the precise meanings, the sort of stunning insights that come out about justice, fate, and importantly, human responsibility.
And it's worth saying, the source material here, it's a very meticulous tafsir, a really deep explanation of these specific verses.
Right.
Sheikh Al-Sha'rawy's work, it's known for being incredibly precise with the language.
Yeah.
And also having this profound spiritual depth that gives us a unique window.
Definitely. So let's jump in. Quran 11.105. On the day when it comes, no soul will speak except by his permission. Then among them will be the wretched and the happy. That universal silence we mentioned, it just feels so impactful.
It is. And what's really fascinating, based on the tafsir, is the linguistic weight behind that silence.
Okay.
The phrase no soul in Arabic, it uses an indefinite noun in a negative context. The source points this out.
Ah, okay. What does that signify?
It signifies an absolute, total universal silence. It means, quite literally, no one speaks without God's specific permission. It just establishes that complete, unquestionable authority right from the start. And then, right after that profound quiet, comes the first big sorting, the initial broad categorization. Then among them will be the wretched and the happy.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Our sources point out these fascinating shifts in the actual language the Quran uses to describe these groups. It's subtle, but seems really significant.
Oh, absolutely. It's a key insight. So that initial division uses nouns, shiki for wretched and sa'id for happy. Simple states.
Right, like labels.
Exactly. But then the very next verse is describing their destinies, how they end up there. They shift to verbs. So it becomes shika, they became wretched, and zaidu, they became happy.
Okay, noun to verb. That feels like a deliberate choice. What's the significance there, according to Sheikh Al-Sha'rawy?
Well, the insight is pretty profound. A noun, it sort of implies a static state, right? Something fixed. But a verb suggests an action, an outcome, something that happened, something that was acquired or resulted from a process.
Okay, so it's not just what they are, but how they got there.
Precisely. And the source attributes wretchedness, the verb shaka, directly to human action, to what they did, what they earned or brought upon themselves. But happiness, saidu, that's framed differently. It's attributed more to God's grace. It emphasizes what's bestowed rather than purely what's earned through action alone.
Ah, that's a critical distinction. So we kind of earn the bad, but the good is fundamentally a gift, a bestowal.
That's the essence of it, yeah. It's crucial for understanding accountability and divine generosity. And it's not just isolated here. This linguistic pattern appears elsewhere.
Like where?
Well, think about Quran 59.9. And if two parties of the believers fight, the verse uses a singular noun for party, but then it uses plural verbs for their actions, the fighting.
Interesting.
It shows how even when talking about a group, the Quran acknowledges the individual actions and the consequences within that group. It connects that collective judgment back to, ultimately, individual destinies and actions.
Okay, that makes sense. So understanding this link between actions and outcomes, let's get into what happens next. This phrase, remaining therein as long as the heavens and the earth endure, except what your Lord wills. That pops up for both groups, the wretched and the happy. And that except what your Lord wills part. It sounds like a major caveat to the idea of eternity, doesn't it? Kind of throws a wrench in the simple forever.
It really does. It's a pivotal point. And the tafsir, it unpacks this exception very differently for each group. It's not the same except for both.
Okay, how so? Let's start with the wretched, those in hellfire.
Right. For those in hellfire nar, the exception ila masha aruk means a reduction from the end of their stay.
A reduction from the end, meaning it might not be literally forever for them?
For some, yes. Specifically, this applies to believers who committed major sins. The source calls them ashab al-kaba'ir. They face a period of punishment, a temporary purification, you could say. But then eventually, they enter paradise.
Ah, okay. So hell isn't eternally populated by everyone who goes in.
Exactly. It clarifies that point.
Yeah.
True disbelievers, for them, other verses use words like abadan, meaning never leaving. But for these believers with major sins, there's an eventual exit by God's will.
Got it.
And the source, it doesn't shy away from the suffering. It describes their physical state with terms like zafir and shahik.
What do those mean?
Zafir is like this deep groaning or exhalation, and shahik is the opposite, a sharp inhalation or gasping. But it's explained not just as sounds of pain, but as involuntary forced breathing.
Forced breathing.
Yeah, like the body desperately trying to get oxygen and energy because of extreme effort or distress. It links it directly to physiological need during intense exertion. It's a really visceral detail.
Wow, that's a piercing detail about the actual experience. Okay, so that's the exception for those in hellfire. What about for the happy, those in paradise? How does accept what your Lord wills apply to them?
For those in paradise, Fiel Jannah, the exception works differently. It signifies a reduction from the beginning of their entry.
Reduction from the beginning, meaning a delay.
Exactly. It refers to those believers who, because of sins they committed, might first need to spend some time in hell for purification before they can enter paradise. So their entry into eternal bliss is delayed.
Okay, so for the wretched, it's about potentially getting out eventually. For the happy, it might be about a delayed entry.
That's the interpretation, yes. But despite that potential delay for some, the default state, the ultimate promise for believers, is eternal happiness. That's confirmed very clearly in other places in the Quran, using phrases like Gaira Maku, meaning uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted, okay.
Now that phrase, as long as the heavens and the earth endure, that also needs clarifying.
Right, because that sounds eternal too.
It sounds like it, but the tafsir stresses this, refers to the current, the temporal heavens and earth, the ones we know now.
Not some future eternal version.
No, because the Quran tells us elsewhere, like in Surah Ibrahim verse 48, that on the day of judgment, the earth will be changed to a different earth, and the heavens too. They'll be replaced.
So it's a duration tied to this existence.
Exactly. And the source highlights a kind of poignant paradox here. Humans, right? We're supposed to be the stewards, the masters of this creation in a sense. Yet our lifespans are so much shorter than the sun, the moon, the mountains, things that seem almost eternal to us. It really emphasizes how transient this world is, this current setup, which of course makes our choices within it even more significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And through all of this incredible detail, this complex system of justice and mercy, one truth seems to stand out very clearly. Indeed, your Lord is the doer of what he intends. That speaks to just absolute will, absolute freedom, doesn't it?
It really does. It emphasizes God's absolute will. The term used is Mashiach and his limitless power. Nothing restricts him. Nothing can question his actions.
Right.
And while he establishes, cosmic laws, the source calls them noam iskania, like laws of nature, he isn't bound by them. He can override them whenever he wills.
So he sets the rules, but can also operate outside them.
Precisely. And this links to another verse, Quran 21.23, which says, God is not questioned about what he does, but humans are questioned about what they do.
Ah, that reinforces the ultimate, unchallengeable nature of his authority. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears slightly then. There's a powerful lesson here about how we actually engage with faith itself. Our sources bring up verse 109. So be not in doubt concerning what these disbelievers worship. They worship not except as their fathers worshipped before. This feels like a critique of something fundamental.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's a profound critique of what the source calls taqlid blind imitation.
Blind imitation. Okay.
The explanation goes like this. True worship, true ibadah, implies obedience, following commands from the one being worshipped.
Makes sense.
But idols can't issue commands. They're inanimate. So the disbelievers' worship, even though they might claim, these bring us closer to God, it isn't considered true worship in this sense. It's just following tradition.
Just doing what their ancestors did without real understanding or obedience to a divine command.
Exactly. And the key takeaway here, for you listening, is the vital importance of what the source calls alta aqwal alamani, intellectual conviction, faith based on understanding.
So faith shouldn't just be inherited.
The tafsir suggests it really needs to be entered through personal understanding, through conviction. not just because that's what your family or community does. Blind imitation, the source states pretty clearly, is considered invalid as a basis for true faith.
That's a strong statement. And it connects to this next point, which is really thought-provoking. It's about responsibility again. The sources bring up this concept of the trust.
Ah, yes. The amana.
From Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 72. Indeed, we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to bear it and were afraid of it. But man undertook to bear it. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. What is this trust?
Let's dive into that amana. It's crucial. This isn't like a physical thing, a deposit box.
Right.
It's the immense responsibility of free will, the choice, the capacity to choose obedience or disobedience to God.
Right.
That's the trust.
Wow. Okay, and the heavens, earth, mountains, they refused.
They refused. The interpretation is that they understood the sheer scale of the responsibility. They saw the potential for failure, the consequences. They judged themselves based on the time of performance. Walked a lot of like, could they actually do this consistently?
Yeah.
And they knew they couldn't guarantee it, so they shied away in fear.
I understood the weight of it. But humans?
But man, yeah, undertook to bear it. Why?
Yeah.
The verse says, indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. The interpretation here is that man judged himself only at the time of acceptance, wakot alamo, that moment of saying yes.
So we sort of jumped in without fully grasping the difficulty of actually living up to it.
Kind of like that, yeah. We accepted the potential reward, perhaps, without fully comprehending the lifelong challenge of performance, the very thing the heavens and earth were afraid of. It explains so much about human fallibility, doesn't it?
It really does. Our unique kind of burdened role in creation, the immense implications of every choice we make because we accepted this amana.
Exactly. It's a reminder of the extraordinary responsibility and freedom that we carry.
And this whole theme, people having different views, grappling with divine truth, consequences being delayed, it's not just about the final day of judgment, is it? It seems to be a recurring pattern.
That's right. The very next verse, 110, gives an example from history. It talks about Prophet Moses receiving the Torah.
Okay.
And we certainly gave Moses the scripture, but difference arose concerning it. So even with divine scripture right there in their hands, people disagreed. They differed over its meaning or application.
History repeating itself.
Indeed. And the verse continues. And had it not been for a word that proceeded from your Lord, it would have been judged between them. This word, this kalama, refers to God's preordained decree.
What decree?
The decree that the final decisive judgment between different groups would be postponed until the day of judgment. Immediate judgment wasn't carried out then and there.
Ah, so it shows this consistent divine pattern. Patience, allowing time despite human disagreement and doubt.
Exactly. The verse ends by saying, and indeed, they are in disquieting doubt about it. That term, Murya, disquieting doubt, suspicion, it captures that ongoing human struggle with certainty, even when revelation is given.
Wow. So, okay, let's try and sort of wrap our heads around everything we've unpacked in this deep dive. It's been a lot.
It has a lot of depth in just these few verses.
We've seen this picture of meticulous divine judgment, starting with that profound silence. We've explored a really nuanced understanding of eternity, how that exception works differently for the wretched and the happy.
The reduction from the end versus the reduction from the beginning.
Right. And the absolute unquestionable power of God's will, the doer of what he intends, then that critical importance of genuine intellectual conviction and faith, moving beyond just blind imitation.
Yeah, the critique of Taclid.
And finally, this incredibly profound concept of the trust, the burden and privilege of free will that humanity uniquely accepted.
It really does frame our existence, our choices, in such a powerful light, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, which leads to maybe a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
If even the vast heavens, the solid earth, the mighty mountains, things that seem so immense and enduring to us, if even they recoiled from accepting this burden of choice, this trust, what does that truly tell you about the real weight and maybe also the incredible potential packed into every single choice you make and the almost terrifying freedom you've actually been gained?